this is another part in our series about getting the most out of our major scales. Now, probably one of the people you think I'd be least likely to be talking about while I've got a semi-acoustic guitar strapped around my neck would be Joe Satriani. But he is a great example of taking a major scale and borrowing. This comes from his Flying in a Blue Dream album, and it starts with this line. Okay, now I'm a great fan of Joe Satriani. I think he's a marvellous player. What I like about him, as much as he's playing, is he just slightly takes the mick out of himself a lot of the time, and I think that's such a healthy thing to be. I don't think he takes himself remotely seriously. I really don't, and that's such a refreshing thing to see in a player. But great innovator, all that stuff, fantastic, and I love it. But what I want to talk about is just that example from Flying in a Blue Dream. Now, what we've got there is what sounds like a massively complicated chord. It's a C with an add 9, and it's a Joe Satriani album, so we've got to call it a plus 11, and we can't call it a flat 5. And then the same thing in A. Okay, now you would think you'd have to have the sort of Wikipedia of scale knowledge to play over this, but actually it's based around a very simple concept. Now I'm going to take it back out of that key just for a second, just for clarity. Okay, let's suppose we go back to our C scale and we say, okay, well, we did mention playing it over F, didn't we? Well, isn't that the same? So this time then, we're saying to ourselves, well, okay, if we've got something which is got this flat 5 or augmented 11 sound, okay, then we say to ourselves, well, okay, we need to use the major scale based on the 5th. So where we're playing C, add 9, plus 11, play a G scale. And so on and so forth. Okay. Yeah, that's an A scale. But we're missing it. Ooh, okay. Well, that's because it's not an A scale, it's an E scale. It's the 5th of our A. Yeah, and wherever we play it, it's going to fit. E scale over A. We have our A with a flat 5 or augmented 11. Okay, now there's probably a lot of other examples I could give, but I kind of like the idea of that because it gets us away from any possibility of thinking about this being purely the province of a jazz thing. Okay, I think you could describe Joe Satriani as a lot of things, but I don't think jazz is really one of the idioms he's known for particularly. Okay, so it's not always about the scale vocabulary. A lot of it is about the sound and the arrangement. Now this leads me to another point, and this is really so important. When you think about how much or little of the stuff we've been discussing here you should use, you have to think about the arrangement, the style of the music, and what's going to be irrelevant. You know, no other band members are going to be interested in how much you practice your scales or how much you even know. What they want to know is, can you play something which sounds good? Now it may be that it might be that, but it might just be this. So just because you know this stuff, there's a great interview with one of Count Basie's horn players, and he was the horn player was talking about his first gig with the big band, you know. And the reason I mention this is because you imagine what a situation this is, a very pressured situation in fact, and the sure sign of a guitarist that's not feeling very confident is he'll tend to play a lot more notes than he might otherwise have done. But great quote from Count Basie, and this horn player was saying he played his first solo, and he'd pretty much gone to town on it. And Count Basie said to him, he met him in the lift on the way down from the gig, and apparently Count Basie just said to him, "You don't have to play everything you know in the one solo." So it was kind of a compliment and kind of a very kind thing to say, because it was like saying, I already know you can play. You don't have to do this craziness just to convince me. I already know it's there. So it's nice to have this stuff in the locker, and it's great to use it at the right time. But just because you've got it there, it doesn't stop very simple stuff being just as relevant and just as punchy and just as musically informative. Anyway, okay, so that's our major scale based on the fifth of the chord we're playing. Gives us that sound. Okay, now I'm sure it's something you can experiment a lot with. As ever, I'd suggest what you do is to record some of those sounds on your phone and just play along with them. It saves you getting caught up with worrying about how you've recorded a guitar, and should I have used this or should I have used that, or should I have compressed it or something. That's completely irrelevant in this particular situation. All you want is to be hearing this and get used to how, we're in C, so how your G scale works over the top. And take your time. One of the great things about this is, as you get into these vocabularies, you could pretty much play all day and still be coming up with fresh things, and that's such a great place to be and such good fun. Anyway, so okay, I'm going to bring things to a close for now. So I'll be back with another episode on how to get the most out of our major scales very shortly. But in the meantime, if you could press the subscribe button, that would be great, and I'll look forward to speaking to you again very shortly. Bye for now.